going to be speaking about the CBI dividend payments. That's the Citizenship by Investment Program dividend payouts. It's a topic that's on everyone's lips and has been discussed thoroughly on social media, and there have been quite a few questions floating around, so we're here to address some of those questions. Now, this is going to be a two-part program. The first part will be an interview with the Prime Minister, and the second part we shall be opening up the lines, allowing the public to call into ZIZ Radio and voice their questions as well. So, welcome, Prime Minister. Good to see you again.
Good afternoon, Jason. Thank you for having me.
It's
always a pleasure being here. Let me say good afternoon to the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, those at home and abroad, and welcome them to our program this afternoon as well.
It's always a pleasure to have you. And so, now, as I mentioned before, the Citizenship by Investment dividend payouts has been on everyone's lips ever since it came to light. And you made an address recently, which we just heard, outlining the amounts that are going to be paid out and giving some more information. Now, you mentioned that there are two tiers of payouts. There is the $500 payout for the pensionable persons who have made persons who have made 500 contributions to Social Security, and then there's the $250 payout for persons who have not. Well, my first question is, how did you arrive at those numbers, 500 and 250?
Well, basically, and it went on to say pensionable, or those who are receiving pension. So you are pensionable after about 10 years when you would have contributed you would have had 500 contributions or more. So those are the two categories. And based on Social Security, a full year is considered 50 contributions if you contribute monthly or you contribute weekly during that year. And so that is about 10 years. And so those who are pensionable and those who are receiving pension, those are the ones who receive 500. And those who are less than 500, 49 and below, those are the ones who receive the $250 payout.
Right, but my question was, how did you arrive at those figures, 500 and 250, as opposed to like 1,000 and 500?
Okay, you're talking about the actual amount.
Yes.
Okay, good. Because 500, I thought you were referring to the number of payouts.
No.
Right, so the 500, we basically look at how much, in a broad sense, we would be able to give, which was $23 million. And that is, of course, based on how much we would have taken in. Now, there are a number of things that are important here before I get to the actual number. In that, one, as I've said before, we are expected to run a deficit, and therefore that actually tempered how much we would give from the CBI program, because a significant part of the proceed from the CBI program will be used to help to recover from that deficit that we are expecting in this year. Other than that, we also would use part of the proceeds to form our sovereign wealth fund. That is a fund we can discuss a bit later as well, and also proceeds from the CBI that is used for our social programs and many other projects, capital projects even within the country. Once we determine the amount that would be reasonable, considering that we have to be a responsible government and to look at our financial situation and really bring a thoughtful approach to all of this, we reach the number of $23 million. And so what we have done with that figure, after looking at all things and taking it from the CBI proceeds, then we look at how many persons are in the Social Security, and then we look at the way of how we can actually divide the money. So when you look at those who are pensionable and those who receive pension, those are, of course, persons who contribute into our country for a longer period of time. And so we thought that those should benefit. One of the other things that inform that, you have a lot of persons who are pensionable or who are receiving pension, for example. Let's look at those who are receiving pension. They would have worked in the sugar industry for very little at that time. You would have looked at those who work for minimum wage, working hard, but because of the type of job that they might have had, their contributions in terms of the amount after making all their contributions and making them eligible would still be minimal. Some of them receive small amounts monthly and so forth, and therefore we thought that if we're going to leverage this, let's leverage it at them, because annually you get double salary, and those who are in that group, they get nothing. If they're not pensionable as government workers, they get no part of the double salary. But yet the resources from this national asset is being used sometimes to help with the double salary. And therefore we are saying that they should get their portion as well. So the elderly who is at home receiving a small amount of Social Security based on the contributions due to low-paying jobs during the years, even though they would have worked hard, can expect to have that $500. And then those who are working, are actively working, are still a part of what you can consider the working force in St. Kitts and Nevis, they will get a $250 payout as well. So if you have a family of 4, for example, you can expect sometimes an extra $1,000 coming into the home. So it means, therefore, that because you will touch so many persons, that the homes will actually be touched in a significant way as an accumulative effect. In addition to that, we are hoping that this type of payout will be spent into the economy to stimulate the economy, to help small businesses in the shops, in the communities, in King Keon, in St. Peter's, in McKnight, in St. Paul, so that these shops can see increased economic activity. So, to answer your question, that is how we reach that amount.
And okay, so just to recap,
yes.
What you're saying is that the $500 and the $250 figures were arrived at after considering the amount that's available,
yes,
and the financial situation of the country.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay, next, you, in a previous press conference, you clarified an even earlier statement about the country, to put it simply, being in the red.
Yes.
And at the press conference, you said what you referred to was cash in hand, when compared to expenses, and that determines the overall financial situation of the country. Well, if we are to take your statement and build on that the country is in the red, how logical is it, or how prudent is it to be giving out these dividends, especially after paying a double salary to civil servants, if the country is in the red?
Right. So the country is in the red in the sense of, when you have a budget system, you look at what you take in, call the revenue, and what you put out, call the expenditure. And if what you put out is greater than what you take in, that is a deficit. The CBI program is a particular type of program, a revenue generating program that brings proceeds into the country that can be leveraged at, if you have a deficit, capital projects to deal with different things that the government might need to deal with in the economy. That we look at as a whole. And we said, after we would have taken out, because we're expected to recover from this deficit in 2023, so after we would have leveraged that to all of this, what is left and what is reasonable, then being prudent, of course, to give as a dividend. So it's separate and apart. So we look at the CBI program in its entirety, look at the country's financial situation, and made an assessment to make sure we can recover from the deficit, deal with our projects that we have to deal with, and what is left, we make a calculation of that to determine what would be the dividend.
So basically it's being paid out of a surplus from an independent fund.
Right.
Okay. Okay, that seems to be pretty...
Well, I would say, right, it can be surplus, or I can say proceeds from an independent fund.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, this this is based on Social Security payouts,
Yes.
right? What happens to persons whose employers... Well, let me back up. Let me back up first of all and ask about the registration. Do persons register on their own, or do they have to register through the company?
Right. So Social Security, unlike other jurisdictions, you don't automatically get a number when you're born, as in other areas. You get a number when you start employment and you apply for a Social Security number. So once you are registered for life, and you cannot come out of the system. So those people, we will have their information. But if there are people out there, Social Security would have said, who may not have been in the system, but we are gearing at those who are in the Social Security system, who would have contributed to nation building and so forth, so that they can get their part of it.
So once you have your Social Security number and you're in the system, you don't have to register or seek registration?
No, let's say they don't have your information,
okay,
for example, because you might have registered some years ago and you have updated your information, they can't reach you, then you can apply.
Now, what happens to persons whose employers have not been paying Social Security? Because I know there are certain instances.
Well, it doesn't depend on whether your employer is paying or not. If you are registered with the program, then you can make an application.
Okay, because yes. I remember the statement said it focused on contributions to Social Security.
Right, so contributions in terms, and you're making a very solid point. So these are some of the instances in the Social Security that we have to get regularized. For example, I think that we have to now go to the IT system where people can check to see if their contribution is being made on the behalf of the employer, because that is a fundamental question. There's some people who work for many years and find out after that their contributions were not being made. So if people have those queries, I think the Social Security have put out information where you can contact the Social Security and you can have those things cleared up and verified.
Okay, but as it stands right now, if your employer has not been paying, you're still eligible for the payouts?
Yes, you're still eligible.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yes.
So we are almost at the end of our interview segment, and we're going to be opening the lines right now. Let's go to Ronnie. Ronnie, do we have anyone on the line right now? Not yet? Okay, so I'm just going to be informing everyone that if you have any questions about the Citizenship by Investment dividend payout, you can call us at 465-2555 at ZIZ Radio, and you can pose your question to the Prime Minister. How often will these payouts be made? Is it going to be an annual thing? Will it be quarterly? How will this be done?
Well, when we look at the whole economy as a whole, our financial status, and we will decide how we will pay and how often we will pay. It can be sometimes, so that will indicate and dictate no more than twice per year, though, because dividends normally are paid once per year, right? But we are saying no more than that, but we will definitely look at the inflows to the program or financial situation for that to determine and dictate exactly how we are going to do. So it is not, for example, if you're a part of a company, some years the company might pay a dividend, some other time it may not pay, based on the situation, the financial situation of that company at that particular time. So that means, therefore, that we too will be governed to a great extent by the financial situation and the inflows into the program.
Okay, we have a caller on the line. Hello, welcome to the program with a conversation with Prime Minister Drew.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Can you turn down your radio, please?
Okay, I'm away from it a little. I call to find out if $500 will be one time, or going to be constantly, monthly, or what?
Well, I think that's exactly what we were just talking. Right. So maybe we should repeat that.
Good. So let me answer the caller. This is a dividend payment. This is a separate and apart to the PAP program. If that person, the caller, if he is eligible for the PAP program, he should apply. Right now, there's an application process that is going on. But this is a dividend. This is where we want to now financially educate our people so that people can understand what is a dividend, what is an investment. How do I invest? For example, here in St. Kitts and Nevis, a lot of our people have invested in the national national group of companies, for example. That group of companies pay a dividend yearly. You can also have shares in other areas. We are saying that a dividend normally is paid once a year. We would look at our situation and pay no more than twice a year, and that again depends. So this is a payment caller that depends on the financial situation and how much we would have taken in through the CBI program. So it will be this payment. Next year we look at our situation again and decide if we are in a position to pay again. But this is separate and apart to the poverty alleviation program, which is a monthly 500 pay. And I asked the caller if he thinks he's eligible, he should really apply to that program.
All right, let's go back to the lines. Hello, you're live on air with a conversation with Prime Minister Drew.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister.
Good afternoon, caller.
And how are you today?
I am well, and how are you?
Yeah, give me thanks to God and pray for you.
Well, thank you very much.
Now, people begin to pay Social Security from the age of 16.
Yes.
And I heard Mr. Edinburgh say that children will not receive anything. Now, until they're 18, they're considered children. So is that what was meant?
I don't know what was meant, but this is a very valid question. But if you are contributing to Social Security, which means that you have been accepted by the program, you are carrying out your responsibility of contributing to the fund, you too would be eligible.
Yeah, it said children, so yes. I want to know what is the definition. If
yes.
they mean children who are survivors or anybody below the age of 18.
Right.
So could you get that clarified?
Yes. Right.
Now the next question. I mean, Mr. Davis asked you. Mm-hmm. Now, I have said before, what you are calling a deficit is really a recurrent deficit. Mm-hmm. And that has been running for years now. When you have the citizenship by investment going into the consolidated fund, that is often used and is used to pay off the balance. So you actually do have a surplus. So because you said you are going to expect Now, if you are really going to expect a deficit, knowing you and knowing economics and accounts, there would not have been so many payouts. So, I am listening tomorrow to the thing to hear. And by the way, let me ask you, are we going to have a tax-free budget?
Well, tomorrow, as you said, you are going to tune in, and I encourage you to tune in. I will discuss the budget tomorrow, and so those questions will be inherently answered.
Yeah, let me
I
ask
just
the
want
question,
tomorrow to be the time when I allow to the country all of this information in context. Yes.
Let me ask another question. I'm going to finish soon.
Sure.
It was said that the CBI money does not go into the consolidated fund. Is that correct?
No, it was not said, no. It goes into the consolidated.
Yeah, I was trying to tell your advisor yesterday, and the information can be found in the estimate of expenditure and revenue. So I want you to enlighten our people. And again, let me say before I go. Now, while it is appreciated what you're doing, we are going to face uncertain future with a projected recession in the advanced economies. All of them saying it. It is therefore up to you and your cabinet to so use the money as to ease the burden. Because to me, giving the 500 and the 250, while it is good, because it is good when you pour, But a leader has to look forward. Just like how Joseph say, famine coming, everybody bring 20%. We have got to have things. It is no matter of giving everybody something. We eat up all now and we face the future. So I expect it to be making more financially responsible decisions as we go forward. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, caller. I want to touch from where the caller ends by suggesting to some extent that this is not a responsible decision. And I think I went to great lengths to point out that this is indeed a responsible decision, because we would have looked at the deficit, looked at what the country needs, looked at the total inflows, and then we made a calculation. Some people were saying, why is it not higher? I said, you have to look at all of these, because I think what the caller is getting at is that your decision has to be prudent in the sense that you will not put the country at risk. So we are making a prudent decision, a deliberate decision when we look at all of it. So I want to assure the caller that we did do that, look at all of it before we made the decision. Let me tell you, this type of thing can happen, and it happens in other countries. For example, in Saudi Arabia, where they have oil. It used to happen in that country that Gaddafi led, where based on how much they got, based on how much they got, Libya, based on how much they got in from their fuel industry, they would determine then how much they give to each citizen. We in St. Kitts and Nevis and we in the Caribbean, we're not accustomed to having our national assets shared directly with our people. And I want there to be a shift, not only in St. Kitts and Nevis, but in the Caribbean, that we have to share the national assets with our people. Our people are the most important, and therefore we have to find ways to create wealth and to build wealth. As I've said before, that will create opportunities for people to buy shares. Let's look at National Bank, for example. When National Bank started back then, I think it was in the 1970s, the idea that poor people in a country like St. Kitts and Nevis can buy shares in a bank. Because remember, most of the banks were foreign-owned banks, and those banks, of course, alienated our people to a great extent, to the point where I remember people saying that it started as a penny bank. And we started there. And at this point, I want to, of course, congratulate Sir Edmund Lawrence, who would have returned from England and would have been part of the labor movement and was very close to Bratcher, who launched this so that our people could have become owners in institutions like banks and grow wealth. And we have seen how National Bank would have played a significant part in transforming our country of St. Kitts and Nevis. That need to be extended more. We need to set up companies or give opportunities for our people to be able to build wealth, not just depend on a salary or a wage, but how can they invest to build wealth? What is a dividend? How is it calculated? What are shares? How do I own shares in a company? We now need to educate our people on these financial aspects so that we can start to grow wealth. So we need to start shifting our mindset, and I hope that this program does not only provide some needed relief to some families, and as I tell you, some families might bring in over $1,000 and can of course help them to have a fairly good Christmas after COVID, which locked us down for 2 years and many people were out of work. But this can also be an opportunity for people to start to ask those questions. How do I build wealth? What are shares? What are companies? What are dividends? Educate themselves so that they become financially savvy and can participate in wealth building for them and their families and for the country on the whole.
Okay. Do we have we have a caller on the line? Let us go back to the phone lines. Hello and welcome. You're live on air with a conversation with Prime Minister Drew. Hello? Are you there? Hello, you're on air. Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello, good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister.
Hi, good afternoon.
And good afternoon, Mr. Rascal. Sorry to call your pet name. But just a brief question. As this dividend is not a social security dividend, because there's no such thing, and it's a payout from the citizenship by investment,
right.
There are a number of persons outside there who have never contributed to the social security and would do well with this $500 or $250, whichever is the choice. Small entrepreneurs who have never paid to social security, fishermen, small farmers, and that kind of thing. What can be done for them? Because they seem to be at a total loss, not at their own fault, because, well, basically, they have never been employed by an employer, and lots of people say, oh, we're working for ourselves, therefore we're not paying into social security. But there are still petitions, and CBI is a petition division kind of thing. So what can be done for them? Thank you.
Right. I want to thank the caller very much for calling, because that is a critical question in the sense of really asking about those who have never contributed because they would have been self-employed. I would say I think that everybody who is self-employed, they are still obligated to contribute to Social Security. So if they have not contributed, I would wish that they sign up and that they contribute so that in their latter years they can have the benefits of those contributions. And all of us really should strive to contribute to Social Security. That is how the fund remains solvent, and this fund continue to serve us, especially during our retirement years, or even if we become incapacitated and cannot work. And therefore I want to encourage them. If there are those out there, I will encourage Social Security to find ways to bring people in so that they can become contributors to the fund. That is the only way the fund can survive. Now, that is a very, very good question, and that question has been asked about those who would have never contributed. At this time, those were not considered significantly. This is something that we will definitely have to look at. But for those who are out there, I would say to them that they should apply to Social Security, because it does fulfill a number of critical rules. So as this roll out, and we look at Social Security as a basis on which to really pay out, to encourage our people that there is, at the end of the day, you can have a benefit, from your own country by contributing to a very vital, and I think that it is important, not only important, but I think it's law that people do contribute to Social Security once they are working and having an income. So I want to encourage persons to contribute to Social Security, but that is a very good point, and that will be looked at. But the objective is really to encourage our people to contribute to Social Security, and that there are benefits in doing so, that your country can share its assets with you. We all have to do our part to make sure we continue nation building.
All right, let's go to the lines once again, and I think we have a few callers online, so let's collect all of the questions one time and see if we can knock them all off. Hello and welcome. You're live on air with a conversation with Prime Minister Drew. Hello, are you there? I think we might have lost that caller. Let's move to the next one. Hello? Hello, you're live on air. Hello, you're live on air with Prime Minister Drew.
Hello, good day. Good day, Prime Minister Dr. Drew. How are you today?
Yes.
I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year when it comes.
And same to you.
My brother, it's interesting to listen to two of your callers The last caller, because you see, it's interesting to listen to the people. It is honesty in people in this country. You know, Sylvian tell you, this coming up ahead, all of a sudden they become God. But when Timothy was planting the money and take up social security money and build a pier, and Patrick was enjoying the cash, where was these people? They ain't get none of the money what Timothy pay out. And as a citizen, Sylvian was a part of not making sure that we move don't be fixed. God has said it, but as a citizen. But today, you're paying money for everybody. And it is so wrong. Everybody giving you the ideas. Who gave you the ideas? Well, we had a government a while ago. How come they didn't want him? When you're paying peace money, you're paying that money, we may hear them talking about, they're supposed to call you and ask you, what did Timothy do with the money? They're supposed to be telling you. But you paying everybody because poor people, Dr. Drew, not supposed to eat. This is my money spent out. You went in social and take up hundreds of thousands of dollars. You may get none. And I'm paying social over 30 years now. What about all the other people? They pick and choose. That call a while ago before, he used to got a lot to say on patches. Listen to him today. And people must stop being so crooked and one-sided. Give all the other call and say, Drew, thank you for what you're doing. You're doing a great job for the people. They want to learn from them. Because they see what was going on in our country for the past 7 long years. Where everybody was being oppressed.
Caller,
you're paying a little money for everybody. It become an issue now. All of a sudden we know the days ahead.
Hey, caller, while I do appreciate your enthusiasm, I'm wondering, is there an actual question for the Prime Minister?
Do what you're doing, and I wish you all the best and your team, Dr. Drew, going forward. You have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Okay, some very enthusiastic support right there. Hello, we're going back to the line. You're live on air with a conversation with Prime Minister Drew.
Dr. Prime Minister.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
I am a pensioner.
Yes.
And I'm saying to you, very thanks for the sugar cake. It would make my Christmas bright. And may God bless you and your family. And I love you, love you, love you, love you.
Thank you very, very much, caller. Right.
Okay, let's go back to the lines. Hello, you're live on air. Hello.
Good day.
Good day.
Hi, Dr. Drew. Thank you for acting on an initiative I've advocated for over a year.
Yes.
My 2 areas of interest are what amounts were placed to the sovereign wealth fund and what function, what capital projects and what funds were allocated for given in the speech last night. Thank you.
All right.
Hold on. Let me see. Do we have any more? Okay, let's take one more because we have quite a few questions to get through.
No problem.
Hello, you're live on air.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Dr. Joe.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
My question to you is this. Now, because of this CBI program, there could be times where, as we may say, things might looking good, and there is time things may not looking bad in terms of, well, I don't know if that's the right word to use, in terms of the selling of the passport. Let me put it this way. Now, what about if there is let me say every year, let me just use a figure. Let me say every year, we normally say send 1,000 passports. But it comes this year now where we could only sell 600. Will the 500 and the 250 still remain? I thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
All right.
You want me to answer some?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I think let's tackle these questions. They were beginning to bank up here. So let's tackle the questions that the Prime Minister has in front of him.
Yes. So let me go from the bottom. I think the last question, all the questions were critical and very important to comment. This last question is very important because this gets to the idea of, if we're calling it a dividend, what does that mean? So he asks a question, if there's and let's look at the amount that he's talking about, I think. So if your inflow is this amount and it drops the next year, again, the amount varies or depends on how you do. So if we don't do too well, we might have to say, well, we can't pay out because it didn't do as well as we expected. If it's do much better than expected, it goes up. It can go up above 500. So that is how dividend operates. So that is a very good question. So we will always assess the financial situation, assess the inflows, and determine how much will be a prudent number to actually give as a dividend. He spoke of another call about the sovereign wealth fund, capital projects, and so forth. I would say that we start the budget debate tomorrow, where I, as the Minister of Finance, will lead on presenting the budget, and therefore I would ask the caller to tune in tomorrow. Because during the budget debate, we will hear about all the capital projects and so forth that we are bringing on stream. So those questions will be answered as well. He asks about the Sovereign Wealth Fund, which I already met with the IMF, met with the Financial Secretary, and this is something that I agree to. We might call it, even if we were to call it a different name, but for now we are calling it that name. It's about putting in a fund that money for a rainy day. Just like the caller and talk about Joseph in Egypt and so forth, it is a thought about it. But even though you put away some, it does not mean you cannot eat now. Because we do that every month, every week, if we are prudent budgeters. You put some in the bank, you say that 5% is for saving, and this other percentage is for food. So you can save and eat at the same time. But you would, of course, budget based on your situation. And that is the same approach here. All right. Now, somebody said thank you for giving especially to the pensioners. That is critical because the pensioners would have contributed so many years. Some of them get very little. And then when you pay an extra salary per year, those who work for government might get, those who are government workers. But these pensioners, especially those who work in those sugarcane fields in the 80s and the 60s and the 70s, would have gone from providence funds to social security, and so their savings in social security is small. Hence, their payout monthly or weekly is small. They too should get something. And that is why I think the caller is saying thank you. They will not be forgotten. Not because they have retired, they must be considered those who contributed to the wealth of the country and they share in the assets of the country and should also enjoy that as well. Another caller called in, the one who you said was the enthusiastic caller, and he spoke about how the money was spent before. He said, I am here, I have a stake in this, yet when money is being paid out, I can be excluded. How can I be included? And this is really to say to the people of the country, you might qualify for different programs, but if the finances allow, and we do it in a prudent way that you can get, we should really share with the people of this country. So I didn't watch whether people voted for Dr. Drew, voted for Labour, whoever they voted for. I will come and I will go. But the people and the country remain, and therefore we must make sure that those who have a stake, who are the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, should share in the asset.
All right. Let's go back to the lines. Do we have any more callers? Hello, you're live on air.
Hi, good day, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm saying hi to the Prime Minister and to the wonderful host, Jason. Yes. How are you guys doing? You're doing a great job.
Thank you very much.
I didn't catch much of the preamble, so I apologize if my question might seem a little bit redundant.
Yes.
But for somebody in my position who has been out of the system for a while due to the pandemic and has not been able to get back on their feet, no contributions, maybe a 2-year window, 2.5-year window, where does that leave someone like that?
Right. So if your contributions are down, for example, particularly, you're still eligible. Once you're in the system, you are eligible.
Okay.
Yes. All right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Oh, we have another caller on the line. Hello, you're live on air.
Yes, good afternoon again. Doctor, you maybe should have explained to the person that by law, the law was passed in 1996, self-employment. So all those who have not or do not want to do so, they can't be expecting anything. The same issue came up during the COVID, where people who refuse to register and some who register don't pay. If you're not working, you can file that you're not working. So we want to encourage people to do so. Now, the enthusiastic caller spoke about the peer. That is an example of an investment. It's a public-private investment. Isn't that so? Dr. Joe?
Yeah, which one is that you mean?
The peer. That's a public-private.
Yes, yes, it could have been that, yes.
And that would generate dividends if it make a profit. So it isn't that somebody do something. That is a good example of public-private and national interest. So that should be commended. Now, my last question. As you are aware, the Social Security needs to make changes. And I don't have it in your budget tomorrow, but I expect to hear what you intend to do about it, and also the National Health Insurance. I hope to hear tomorrow how soon you're going to have the premiums assessed and get the program up. I wish you all the best.
Thank you very, very much. Those that the caller asks a critical question. And that one, the caller asks about the changes at Social Security. As you know, we have a new Social Security Board. It is now headed by former FS, Mrs. Janet Harris, and a very able board. I think that anyone who looks at the track record of Mrs. Harris would reach the conclusion that she's more than qualified to head an institution like that. So she and her team on the board have recently been installed and are already looking at the changes that are required. An actuarial report was presented, and they know what is in the actuarial report, and a series of things will be done to make sure that the Social Security remains solvent and it remains strong. So there would be changes. As to the changes with the new board that are being put in place, we are awaiting the completion of that as well. With respect to the National Health Insurance, that is a very critical point. I have brought the National Health Insurance. It was under agriculture, I think, totally misplaced. And I brought it back to the Ministry of Health. And we are now, a team is looking at it. And my special advisor, who is the past CMO and who would have worked significantly on the National Health Insurance scheme since many years ago, over a decade ago, that he is now assigned to look at National Health Insurance, and that is Dr. Patrick Martin. And therefore, we are serious with moving National Health Insurance along. Why? Yesterday in Cabinet, and this will come out in our post-Cabinet briefing, we signed on to a particular document that spoke to health as a human right. We accepted that in Cabinet. And therefore, health is not going to be seen as a privilege, but a human right. And that is why National Health Insurance will be a critical part. She, of course, asked the critical question of exactly when. But I wanted to know that we are working on it as quickly as possible, assessing what was done over the last 7 years for us to give a prudent answer to that question. But I can assure the caller that I have spoken about universal health care. We will deliver universal health care. We have started to do it. We are doing what you call a situation analysis on the program to make sure that we can be in a position to launch it. And when we're also going to consult the people of this country. We have to have town hall meetings, programs and regions, so forth, so people can be sensitized as to what universal healthcare entails and the part that they would have to play in it to ensure that health is a right in Sinkit and not a privilege.
Alrighty, let's go back to the phone lines. Hello, you're live on the air. It's a conversation with Prime Minister Drew.
Hello, good day. Prime Minister.
Good afternoon, yes.
Good afternoon to you, sir. Yes, you paid the government workers a double salary just the other day. I asked me questions and I'm speaking at the same thing. The private sector didn't get any of that. That's the first thing. Now, you giving us a dividend for everybody to collect again. Now again, the government is getting some of that and the private sector is getting some too. Don't you think that if they didn't get this one, the money could have been a little more? Yes, we're thankful for the money, but 250 and 500 from all the money there we hear in the CBI investment going on, just that small money there. Another thing again, why didn't you just hold back the double salary and just pay everybody dividends? Because only you're the Prime Minister for government workers alone. Private workers been through the COVID and all of that, and nobody passed nothing. People saying that we should go work for government. But everybody buying things in the supermarket, everybody going doctor, everybody doing the same thing, everybody traveling, paying taxes, going St. Kitts, going Nevis, going away. So why is it that it's looking like government workers get the most and the better privileges when it comes to the government handing out something that is present now? That should never be. That shouldn't look so transparently off. It's supposed to be across the board even. You give people who getting 5 and 6 and 3 and 4 and 5,000, 10,000, double the salary, and they're still getting some of the dividend. Please explain that, and answer to you in your right if that's really fair for the private sectors. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, caller. I want to thank the caller for the question. The caller is really a question of fairness, which is a critical question. I want to say to the caller that this is the first time this is being done. And of course, in our calculation is we have to consider those in the private sector as well. This has never been done before. So as much as we might somewhat have some questions about the amount which I explained already, the caller has to recognize as well that this is the first time he is getting anything from the government if he's in the private sector. So this is a step in the right direction, and I think that credit should be given to that as well. With respect to this double salary, the government, and there are other private entities that will give double salary as well. I spoke to somebody yesterday, Saturday, and they said they're giving their workers a double salary. In my own statement, I encourage others to pay private workers where they can. With respect to the government, we recognize that during COVID, the government workers kept the country going. Not everybody, of course, was qualified for the honorarium. The honorarium was given to those who, in their normal work for the government, exposed themselves to possible death with the COVID-19 virus. So that was separate. For the essential workers of the government who kept the country going, that is the premise on which the bonus was paid. The dividend is totally something different. When you look at the concept of it, it is sharing some of that. Now he spoke about how much is coming in, and again, here's one caller saying that they should have gotten more, and another caller saying that nothing should have been given. So it means I'm somewhere in the middle. So probably we are where we are supposed to be. Now with respect to not giving, the idea of a dividend is those who own the assets should benefit from it. So even if somebody were private or public, they are owners of the assets, and you cannot deprive somebody from what is due to them for being an owner of the asset. Now the question of fairness is where he spoke about with respect to that, and I encourage private companies, of course, to give, and when it is at a different level where we can give more, we will give more. But I would like to say to the caller that our people and more people benefit from other aspects of the CBI, the social programs, for example, the PAP that is paid, the STEP that is paid. Those are paid fundamentally from proceeds from the CBI. So our people, there are people who get monthly amount from that program, whether they're on the STEP or whether they are part of the PAP program, and they are benefiting constantly from this. If you have somebody working, here is their asset helping a subset of people of the country which need it, and we agree to, and it should be done. But why is it they can't too enjoy some of the asset if the financial situation allows it to be? So I don't know the caller who called in. He might know somebody on the PAP, they are benefiting. He might know somebody on the STEP, they are benefiting. So to suggest that this is the only way in which people are benefiting from it is not correct at all. We talk about capital projects. I'm sure that the caller himself is benefiting from some of those projects as well. So it goes a much longer way than is being suggested. And so we know that this is helping with capital projects from which all benefit, the PAP program as I mentioned, the STEP program as I mentioned, and many other programs that are out there that are helping the people come from proceeds of the CBI. We looked at it and we said that we think that those who own the assets, which are the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, should have a part in it as well. So if there's a person out there who is not making enough because of what they should have, they can have the opportunity to apply to the PAP, which comes from some of the proceeds of the CBI, and if somebody is not working, they can, and many of them are working on the STEP program as well. So this is really helping in a holistic way. But we are saying at this point that the asset, we should look at it and leverage it to our people to help them to build wealth, to consider financial education, to become investors, to understand what dividend is, what shares is, and so forth. So this is a holistic approach to the whole program. So this is not the only way in which our citizens are benefiting from the program.
Okay, let's go back to the phone lines. Hello, you're live on the air.
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you for taking this call. Honorable Prime Minister, I want to commend you. This is such a great initiative. I told someone the other day that you are a strategic thinker and planner, and I can see that. You will always have persons, you know, we are all different. We have different views. And you will have those who will object to one thing or see something positive here, see something negative here. But I think on balance, and what you have explained today, making sure that some of the assets of the country, once the correct assessment has been done, you keep back some, save some, and distribute some, and let everybody feel their part. I think that is a very commendable effort and initiative. But I would want to just say this. There are some older people, those who were under the National Provident Fund. They may not now be in the Social Security system. And yes, you did say that you want to encourage people to get into the system, and that's good. But not everybody would be getting those older ones for one, and even people like the Fishers and so on who were not in it, Social Security. And to the extent that, you know, they are citizens, they probably pay taxes of various types and what have you, and so they also contribute in their way. I'm thinking that you may want to consider at some point having your persons look at those persons, citizens. They may be registered voters, but they're not in the Social Security system. They may not be eligible for, or maybe may not have gone into to do the PAP or the STEP, and see how they could be helped, because I do agree with the caller who spoke about those persons. Somehow try to get something out to them. But I thank you again. Wish you all the best for this coming year. May God continue to bless you, strengthen you, give you the wisdom and the vision to go forward and move the whole country forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller.
Can we collect a few more calls? I think we have a few people on the lines.
Okay. Have a few more.
This will be the last batch of questions. Hello, you're live on air.
Hello, good afternoon again. Hello?
Hello, yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. You're live on air with Prime Minister Drew.
Dr. Drew,
yes.
Keep your head high. You got to be very careful and strategic when Sylvie called in. You see what she said to you? If the peer was not a good idea. Well, when Dr. Denzel Llewellyn Douglas came up with the Warner Park Stadium, was not the same Sylvie and them was talking about the idea, dragging it down? The peer, what the bill was on, a lot of corruption. You already said that, the leader. And I listened to the caller a while ago before the lady. Well, the caller, forget that when the Fifth get $27,000, Juicy Byron get $27,000. What did the poor people get? Do they forget that you do not have to do this? What was Timothy plan for us? Nothing but robbing us. You're giving. If you give me 5 cents, Joe, thank you. If you give me 2 cents, thank you. What he telling you to do ain't enough. Lord of mercy, man. Juicy get 27,000. What did we get? What did the nurses get? And how we find out? It leaked. I tell these people don't come on the radio and try to embarrass labor. It's not going to happen, my brother. Let us be positive. You continue doing what you're doing. You have a heart. You understand poor people. You come from humble beginning. So you understand and continue just like me. We heart is weak when it comes to people. And we're going to continue doing what we want to do best for our people. My brother, thank you to the top of my heart. And the people need to appreciate good things. Because up to now, Timothy have not said before election that he's going to give us poor people nothing. But you came and you decide to give people something. And these people calling and got the heart to be talking this foolishness. My brother, continue doing what you're doing and continue to investigate them, you know. Because the nation need to know where our money gone. Sylvie got the heart to talk about peer. Come on, man, my brother. Keep up the good works. Continue, you and your team, looking out for the poor people. People say thank you because you didn't sign a document. It's not in the Constitution, so you must give. Because some of them was using the Constitution when people lose their work. Now today, you're giving, they have nothing good to say. My brother, keep up the good works.
All right, thank you very much for your input. Next, this is our last batch of calls, so let's take them all one time. Hello, you're on the air.
Yeah, good day, Prime Minister.
Good afternoon. Yes.
How is everything?
I am well. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Now, the Social Security, I believe that the dead, for the dead, it need to step up.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is now, the grant is 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And the undertaker them very expensive. $50,000, $20,000, $30,000 and so. So that needs to step up. And the next thing is that you and your party supposed to walk around in the different area and hear what the poor people have to say.
Mm-hmm.
Hear what people have to say. And thank you with that.
All right.
All I have to say.
Thank you very, very much, caller. Yes.
I think we can take one more. Oh, two more quickly. Hello, you're on the air. Hello, you're live on the air. I think we've lost that caller.
Hello.
Hello, yes, you're live on the air.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm calling to find out if someone who contributes to Social Security and is overseas, and if they have to get whatever from the contribution, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have a bank like to send the money to. What procedure they have to go through if they're overseas?
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's a very good question. What I would say, caller, provisions is made for them to apply. I would ask them, since they're overseas, to contact Social Security, and Social Security will definitely give them how they can receive it. So they can.
And how long this it ends to? Like what date?
Well, we intend to wrap it up by the end of the year. That is our intention. We're starting on the 15th, and we intend to wrap up at the end of the year.
Okay, God bless you, and you have a wonderful Christmas when it comes.
Thank you very much.
And continue to do your good work.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, and same to you and
Bye.
your family. Have a blessed one. One of the callers spoke about Social Security. I'll have to wrap it up just now.
Mm-hmm.
And they spoke about how much should be paid as a benefit for the deceased. I think that is one of the things that people would have been spoken about, and that should be brought towards the Social Security Board for it to be looked at to see what adjustments can be made. I think that number is a number from some time back, and as he said, the cost of funerals would have gone up. So that is definitely something to be looked at as well. A caller called in and spoke about those who may not be in the system because they would have contributed to Providence Fund. I would like to say to that caller, it has to be the intention that these persons also benefit. And I would ask that this be looked at. These would be the very elder persons in the communities who would have, contributed to Providence Fund and maybe not to Social Security in sufficient amount, but yet were contributor at some level or in some program. So I would ask that be looked at. That would not be a significant number, but I think that the caller does have a good point in saying that. I would also look at, so those are those who are overseas, and I think I answered the fundamental questions. The caller called in and spoke about the projects as well, for example, the peer and so forth. I think the broader point the caller would have been making is that, there are other programs that were there, but none was targeted specifically to all our persons individually. I think that was the broader point that the caller was making, and this is really a program to target our people as specifically and as individually as possible as well.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us and shedding some light on the dividend payout, taking time to answer questions and providing more information. It's the first time this has been done, so there are bound to be lots of questions, and I'm sure there are going to be more questions. Social media is going to be rife with discussion, I'm sure. But thank you for taking time out and joining us. Yes. I've been speaking with Prime Minister the Honourable Dr. Terrance Drew, and he's been giving us more information on the Citizenship by Investment Dividend payouts, which are scheduled to begin on the 15th.
Correct.
The 15th, and will run until the end of the year.
Yes.
Alrighty then. Well, thank you very much. I'm Jason Davis for ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation.
Thank you very much to all who tune in to us.